Welcome to the deep dive.
Here.
So today we are plunging into a source stack that is, well, it's complex, it's surprising, and honestly thoroughly entertaining.
It really is. I mean, if you've ever wondered how an author can possibly blend high-stakes paranormal romance.
The kind with like biological imperatives and alpha omega stuff.
Exactly. How they blend that with the pressure of, say, landing an HGTV contract and managing a massive TikTok following, then you are definitely in for a treat.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? The sheer variety of stakes here is kind of wild.
Oh, for sure. We've pulled together material that really revolves around Lana Ferguson's The Mating Game and some of her other related works.
And these source excerpts, they just lay out this astonishingly detailed reality.
They do. We're not just, looking at a simple romance plot. We are dissecting a really meticulous structure of shifters, primal urges, deep family trauma.
And on top of all that, this chaotic, set-in late-in-life identity crisis. It's a lot.
It is.
So our mission today is really to extract the mechanics of this world. We want to understand how an author can leverage these really intense, almost primal romantic tropes.
Like the grumpy Alfie and the newly presented Omega.
Right. How you use those to explore some pretty serious themes, things like control and destiny and personal accountability.
And you have to see how they balance that primal conflict against this extremely modern, very high-stakes backdrop of, small business renovation, viral fame, and career ambition. It's that friction, I think.
The friction is everything.
It's the constant friction between the ancient and the contemporary that really provides the heat in this material. You've got biological destiny crashing right into viral internet culture.
So our goal here is to unlock those little knowledge nuggets hidden inside that tension. What actually happens when a highly capable, modern professional suddenly finds her entire identity?
Her whole carefully planned career.
Yeah, thrown into total chaos by what the doctor calls a little hiccup in her genes.
A very big hiccup.
Okay, so let's start at the foundation. The author's brand, Lana Ferguson. The sources are pretty clear on this.
Oh, absolutely. She's known for writing romance that has, and I'm quoting here, copious amounts of spice.
Right, but it's balanced with heroines who are genuinely funny and, relatable.
And that combination is it's essential, isn't it? The material has to be grounded in that character humor so that when the world building hits...
And it hits hard.
It hits hard, but the reader is already invested in the protagonist. The praise we see in the sources highlights this. Her work is described as unique, atmospheric, playful.
And it puts an ingeniously clever and wonderfully whimsical spin on established legends.
Which tells you right away this is high-effort world building. It's not just a simple plot device.
And she's clearly not just sticking to one subgenre, which I think is a really key insight into her whole approach.
Precisely. We see her playing in a few different arenas. There's the paranormal or mystic romance with that whimsical spin on the Loch Ness Monster in Under Lock and Key.
Which is fun.
It's a lot of fun. But the complexity, it really ramps up with this Omegaverse structure. We see that in The Fake Mate and, of course, The Mating Game. And this isn't just a werewolf story.
No.
It's a specific, highly structured society where these biological roles, alpha, beta, omega, they dictate social dynamics. They dictate reproductive imperatives. It's intense.
I think we should probably pause here for a second because for listeners who might not be as familiar with the Omegaverse as a trope, we're not just talking about dominant and submissive personalities, are we?
Oh, that's a crucial distinction. Not at all. The Omegaverse structure, at least as it's used here, is built on these secondary genders. And they often define things like pheromonal signals, reproductive capacity, and these really intense biologically mandated heat cycles.
So the alpha is, generally dominant, powerful, and driven by these protective, possessive instincts.
Right. And the omega, especially in a case like Tess's of late presentation, experiences these involuntary heats and is biologically just receptive to an alpha's pheromones and to the whole concept of a mate.
So what the author is doing essentially is creating this biological clockwork mechanism that forces the plot forward. It doesn't matter what the characters want to do professionally or intellectually.
Exactly. Their biology decides for them. It completely eliminates that slow burn you sometimes find in contemporary romance. These characters don't get to, decide if they're attracted to each other.
Their bodies have already made that call.
Their bodies decided that the second they were in the same room. It leaves them only with the choice of how they're going to react to that attraction.
And then, just to show the range, she pivots completely. She also tackles sports romance.
Yeah, professional hockey in The Game Changer and The Final Score, which just confirms that the common thread here isn't the setting. It's the focus on intense, high-stakes, personal jeopardy.
Whether it's physical, emotional, or, biological.
The stakes are always at the max. A career-ending injury in hockey, a life-altering genetic shift. The core tension is the same. The protagonist's carefully constructed life is just shattered by some external force they can't control.
Which brings us back to those core emotional dynamics, the tropes that let a reader get on board quickly.
Well, the sources explicitly call out the grumpy meets sunshine trope for the fake mate, and you see that distilled perfectly with Tess and Hunter.
Oh, totally. Tess has that optimistic, can-do, modern woman attitude. That's the sunshine, right? Even as her body is just completely betraying her.
And then you have Hunter, the perpetually frowning, reclusive owner of this lodge. He's the quintessential grumpy foil.
It's such a great framework for the story, isn't it?
It is. It lets the author set up this immediate, sharp, witty dialogue that's kind of masking this terrifying biological reality bubbling just underneath.
Right, so they're arguing about renovation plans and social media.
While their bodies are screaming at them about mating and knots.
It creates this cognitive dissonance that you, as the reader, totally get. You're enjoying the banter of a classic rom-com, but you're also witnessing this existential crisis of biological destiny.
And we know from another source that she uses the brother's best friend trope in The Game Changer. These are narrative shortcuts. They establish the relationship's trajectory instantly, which lets the author spend more time on the really deep, messy conflicts, whether they're paranormal or professional.
So let's really get into Tess Covington, or I guess Esther professionally, before all this chaos starts.
Right, before her life gets completely hijacked by pheromones.
She's this super driven, organized, successful professional contractor, rustic renovations.
And she's the anchor of the story. The source material really emphasizes her sense of responsibility. She took over the family business at 18.
18.
Yeah, when her dad had a stroke. I mean, that detail is so critical. She didn't just inherit a company. She became the operational brains and the financial backbone for her whole family, basically overnight. She is defined by competence and control.
And this isn't some small-time operation either. She's savvy. She uses modern platforms.
Oh yeah, she has a huge TikTok following. A project went viral, which gave her all this leverage.
So this renovation, the Bare Essentials Wilderness Lodge, this is basically her final audition for an HGTV show.
The career stakes could not be higher. This is the moment, the one that secures financial stability, professional validation for all those years of sacrifice.
And it's all tied up with her family's well-being, especially her dad's health.
Absolutely. He had another stroke. He has a heart condition. So Tess is carrying this immense pressure to secure his future, to protect him from stress, which is why she is so secretive about all of this.
Okay, so she flies into Denver. She's ready for the biggest job of her life, and instead, her entire world just collapses on the plane.
It does. The onset of the symptoms, they are severe and immediate.
What are we talking about here?
The sources say terrible cramps, a raging fever, cold sweats, overwhelming nausea. It's so acute she doesn't even make it to the job site. She goes straight to the emergency room. She thinks she's, dying.
And the diagnosis she gets from Dr. Carter, it's delivered so casually considering the implications.
It really is. A little hiccup in your genes. A late presentation of being an omega and a shifter.
And that late presentation part, that's the core of her psychological crisis, right?
I think so. Tess is a professional woman whose identity is built on control, on logic, on planning. And now her body is just rapidly trying to catch up to a biological reality it should have integrated years ago. It forces this complete, involuntary overhaul of her identity.
She goes from capable human contractor to
a biological ticking time bomb.
Her initial reaction really says a lot about her personality, though. She deflects with humor.
Total petulance. Joking about craving red meat and wanting to sniff strangers.
She's using humor as a shield.
It's a classic defense mechanism. But the doctor is dead serious. He warns her about the adjustment period, the headaches from her suddenly heightened senses, and the really critical risk of unplanned shifting. She can't just take a pill for this. Her body has to go through it.
And that right there creates the central conflict, her professional ambition versus her chaotic biology.
Exactly. The doctor suggests she needs weeks to just hole up and process this change.
Which she absolutely cannot do.
She can't. She has a viral following, brothers who are relying on her, an HGTV contract hanging in the balance. It's the ultimate squeeze.
So she gets prescriptions to manage the symptoms, but the doctor warns her against using suppressants.
Yeah, Dr. Carter emphasizes the need for the natural process to unfold. And that is why this renovation at the Bare Essentials Wilderness Lodge becomes such a pressure cooker. Tess can't admit she's vulnerable, so she hides it.
From everyone. Her best friend, Ada, her whole family. She's terrified the news would stress out her father or just derail this huge career opportunity.
She's trying to maintain total external control, while internally she's completely unraveling.
And that fear, that feeling of being a biological freak, is the perfect psychological fuel for her initial hostility when she finally meets Hunter.
Oh, yeah. She is primed for conflict. She's ready to reject anything or anyone that demands she accept this change.
So Tess, armed with all these secrets and this, ticking time bomb inside her, she finally gets to the Bare Essentials Wilderness Lodge.
Yeah, near Pleasant Hill. And the lodge itself it's kind of a perfect reflection of Hunter's whole vibe, isn't it?
Totally. It's beautiful decay. Like you can see it was once this postcard perfect place. The rugged log siding, the wide windows.
But the reality, the sources are specific, is wear and tear. There's rotting wood, a broken railing. The lodge itself is struggling. Business has been slow for years.
Right, since a new highway bypassed the town, so it's a dying legacy.
Which raises the financial stakes for Hunter, too. This renovation isn't just cosmetic for him, it's existential for the lodge, for the town.
But amid all that decay, she does find a little bit of warmth.
She does. In Jeannie, the cheerful aunt by marriage. She's also a shifter, and she cooks the meals. Jeannie really embodies the community and acceptance that Hunter has just completely retreated from.
And then there's Reginald. We have to talk about Reginald.
We do. The grumpy Maine Coon cat, named after Jeannie's late husband.
In a world filled with these primal shifters and explosive biological dynamics, this tiny, grumpy cat named after a lost loved one it's a brilliant grounding detail.
It's a perfect touch, isn't it? It roots the whole setting in this relatable, slightly eccentric domesticity.
Reginald is maybe a mirror for Hunter's own exterior.
A layer of unnecessary grumpiness protecting a soft core. I could see that.
Well, speaking of unnecessary grumpiness, let's bring in Hunter Barrett, the owner. His immediate hostility is really the first spark.
Hunter is introduced as the absolute archetype of the hostile hero. Tess sees the physical appeal right away, rugged, looks like a Harlequin romance cover model.
A Yeti or a hot lumberjack.
Right, but she immediately undercuts that attraction with a joke about him missing his axe. Calls him an axe murderer.
That's her modern professional humor pushing back against his, overwhelming primal masculinity.
It is, and he is terse, he's clearly agitated, and he reveals right away he was wholly against the whole renovation. Calls her Miss Fix-It.
And he questions her capabilities because of her size, which is so insulting given her experience.
That professional slight is just a cover for the real conflict, though. Hunter's resistance, it's rooted in his deep, traditional attachment to the lodge.
Built by his great-grandfather.
Exactly. And his absolute aversion to change. But mostly his hostility is biological. Hunter is a non-suppressed alpha. His powerful sense of smell immediately flags Tess as an omega in the middle of a critical change.
The sources mention his natural scent is rain and sunshine, which is such a lovely, calming counterpoint to his abrasive personality.
It is. But that scent, combined with her newly acquired baked apples and cinnamon with a touch of something headier, it just immediately sets their whole dynamic on fire.
The scent is the truth teller.
Completely. Hunter can smell her truth before she even accepts it herself. So the confrontation is instantaneous. He doesn't hint around it. He just asks, "Are you an omega?"
Which forces her to confront the one thing she's desperately trying to hide.
And Hunter, for his part, is just annoyed. He's forced to live under the same roof with an omega whose pheromones are going haywire, and his alpha instincts are raging because he knows he can't ignore her.
And Tess is just so offended by the whole designation. She calls it hormonal bullshit.
It's her intellectual self rejecting what her body is telling her. And we get this really crucial internal monologue from Hunter.
Right.
Despite trying to be cold and unwelcoming, he admits internally that he's already failed. He notices her name, Esther, and thinks of it as soft, like her. Except she isn't. Not really. He sees her resilience, but also how fragile she is right now.
And he closes his eyes and pushes his head against his door, realizing she's trouble he has to avoid.
Yeah, repeating to himself, "Not again." And that line, that's what connects his immediate resistance to his deeper unresolved trauma.
Okay, so this is it, the collision course. Instinct versus choice. This is where that core theme is really established.
Exactly. This is where the whole thing just ignites.
Because Tess is caught, right? There's this undeniable, overwhelming biological pull towards this alpha.
An overwhelming pull. Her pheromones are going haywire just because he's nearby.
But her brain, her entire identity, is just screaming that this is biological determinism, it's hormonal garbage, nothing more.
She wants to forget it, but her body just will not let her. And Hunter recognizes it. He knows that alphas and omegas are designed to be drawn to each other.
And the author uses her medical crisis, these sudden heat cycles, as the trigger that forces them together and demands a choice from Hunter.
It does. Let's talk about that first sudden heat. It's intense.
He's completely overwhelmed. She rushes to his room. She's desperate, in full heat, begging him to touch her.
The source material is very clear. She's rubbing against him, wanting to lick his neck. And for Hunter, this is a moment of just extreme physical suffering. His alpha is demanding he comply. He knows she needs a knot to resolve the heat, but he refuses.
Let's expand on the knot, because this is a specific biological and symbolic detail that really elevates the stakes here. It's not just part of the sex act in this world, is it?
No, it's a necessary mechanism. It's a biological function unique to alphas. It involves a swelling during climax that locks the pairing together for a bit.
And that's what ends the heat cycle.
In a purely instinctual response, the knot is the guaranteed biological resolution. So Hunter's decision to resist giving her that, to endure his own very real physical pain, that is his first major act of non-instinctual choice.
So instead of just submitting to the biological mandate, he chooses restraint.
He does. He gives her only his scent. He talks her through it. He's prioritizing her emotional and mental state over the demands of his own biology.
And that act of resistance, it really sets the stage for their whole relationship.
It does. He proves he's the good guy,
Yeah.
which is something Tess admits later. She acknowledges he had every biological right to take advantage of her, but he chose not to.
He then warns her that these mini heats will keep happening.
Right, and that trying to suppress her body's natural change isn't the solution. He's choosing to act as her protector, her guide, even when it causes him physical suffering.
And so their bond starts to evolve through this training. She's a newly presented shifter, so they start practicing shifting together out on the mountain.
It's a really beautiful contrast. In wolf form, he's large, smoky, gray fur. He represents maturity, power.
In Tess, she's newly presented, so she's soft, tan, and auburn fur, and she's described almost like a baby deer.
And this is the only time she can really surrender to that primal identity without any consequence. But even here, biology just interferes.
The second mini heat strikes while they're in wolf form.
Right after she's been trying to outrun him, the physical exertion, the proximity to her alpha, it just triggers the arousal.
And this time, Hunter notices a crucial biological pattern.
He does. He realizes that the heat only dissipates immediately after a climax. He explicitly links satisfaction to controlling the heat.
Which just drives his protective instinct even further.
It does. He concludes, "I don't think my alpha will allow me to let you suffer, Tess," which reinforces his commitment to managing her biological reality, even if it means huge personal sacrifices for him.
Okay, but we have to talk about the psychological engine that's driving all of Hunter's resistance. It's this deep, self-imposed guilt he has over his parents' death 10 years ago.
That's his prison, his self-imposed prison. He truly believes he is meant to just sequester himself away and that he would hold Tess back. He thinks of himself as a burden who would ruin her future.
And his whole aversion to modern tech, the famous flip phone, his criticism of TikTok, that's not just a quirk, is it?
No, it's a symbolic rejection of the modern world, a rejection of the forward-moving life he denies himself. Technology represents engagement, speed, change, all the things he ran away from after the tragedy.
He tells Tess that his parents' death made him reconsider all the things he used to think were important. So in his mind, her viral fame, her HGTV show,
Are all superficial distractions from the quiet, honest life he believes is the only truly meaningful way to live.
that's a key analysis. He sees her ambition as a risk, and he sees his own stagnation, this dingy, failing lodge, as his penance. He's using his trauma to rationalize pushing her away and avoiding happiness.
Which is where Jeannie comes in. The voice of wisdom. She sees right through his act.
She confronts him directly about his self-punishment.
Jeannie is the ultimate emotional catalyst. She points out that he's punishing himself, that his parents' death was a complete accident, and that the guilt is not his to carry.
She really calls him out.
Oh, she does. You've holed yourself up here on this mountain ever since your parents died, because you still feel responsible, and you think sequestering yourself in this place is somehow your penance. She forces him to choose between his guilt and his future.
But I want to pause here and just, challenge that nobility for a second. He resists mating with her to protect her, and then he tries to push her away for her career. Is that really noble, or is it just another form of control?
That's a really probing question.
I mean, he's dictating what he thinks is best for her based on his own trauma instead of trusting her to choose.
And the narrative uses that tension deliberately. It starts as misplaced nobility, but is rooted in fear. His alpha instincts make him protective, but his guilt makes him self-sacrificing to the point of self-destruction. He doesn't trust that Tess is strong enough to handle him and his baggage, so he tries to control her destiny by just removing himself from it. His whole arc is about learning to trust her competence as a contractor and as a partner, to choose him despite it all.
But what's so interesting is that even with all this high-octane emotional chaos.
The job still has to get done.
Exactly. Professional progress is still happening. Tess and her brothers, Thomas, Chase, and Kyle, they get to work fast.
And they make real, demonstrable improvements, which just goes to show you how capable she is, even when she's, internally combusting.
The renovation becomes like a barometer for their relationship.
It does. They're ripping up carpet, revealing original hardwood, working on the fireplace. And Tess successfully navigates Hunter's deep desire to preserve the lodge's original character.
Especially the hand-carved banisters.
Yes, with her vision for modernization.
I love that detail about the stain choice. She convinces him to go with a cedar stain over a cherry one. She even gets Hunter to side with her against her own brother.
That small professional victory is a massive symbolic victory in their personal dynamic, isn't it? She proves she respects his past, but she won't let it dictate the future.
It shows that their work collaboration is building this mutual professional respect right alongside their romantic chemistry.
Tess proves she's not some flippant, modern dilettante, and Hunter proves he's not just a stubborn Luddite. He can be convinced by sound logic. They were literally negotiating their future through cedar stain and banisters.
And that mutual respect gets pushed even further during the power outage, the shower incident.
Oh, this is the turning point. Tess slips in the shower during a snowstorm. She sprains her ankle. She's naked, vulnerable, screaming for help.
And Hunter, who promised to keep his distance, he just bursts in.
Yeah, does. And he helps her so meticulously. He rinses her hair, lifts her out, gets her to the bed. Tess is acutely aware of being naked. Hunter is internally going mad, but he stays in control to be her protector.
So this forced intimacy, it's born out of injury and care, not out of a heat cycle. And that changes everything.
It does. They end up bundled together downstairs by the fire, and that physical proximity leads to this profound vulnerability. Tess admits she feels better and that she actually enjoys his care and attention.
And Hunter confesses his deep regret about the lodge failing. He finds it easy to talk to her.
And he makes that joke, that maybe it's because he half-fucked her in the snow. That admission of vulnerability from him, sharing his fear of failure, that's what truly opens the door for Tess.
And the shared emotional moment leads directly to their first truly consensual encounter.
Yes. Tess, emboldened by his vulnerability, she initiates the kiss. The consummation includes the alpha knot.
And Tess experiences the full biological effect. She feels physically complete, like she spent her life missing something.
This is the moment where her intellectual disdain for her own biology just starts to crumble under the weight of biological satisfaction.
But the crucial analytical point comes right after. Hunter notices a massive shift compared to the mini-heats.
This is the narrative telling us the bond is real. After the mini-heats, her scent would dissipate instantly after climax. But after this full consensual mating, he inhales and realizes, I don't smell your heat dissipating.
That's the signal.
That's the signal. It means the bond is deepening beyond just hormones. It's suggesting a permanent, lasting mate bond is forming. And Tess, she realizes she wants him for himself, not simply for the demands of my newfound designation.
The honeymoon is, of course, short-lived. The outside world, her family returns.
Which triggers Hunter's most primal, dangerous instinct, alpha possessiveness.
The dramatic irony here is so thick. Her brothers come back, and Hunter's alpha instinct just rage out of control. He sees other males near his omega.
And he physically blocks the staircase. He almost shifts. He's driven by this non-negotiable urge to protect her. He even grabs her brother Thomas by the collar, and he hears this alarming internal whisper.
Mate. And that action, which is pure instinct, forces Tess's hand.
It does. She has to intervene and reveal her omega status, their relationship, everything, to her family. The very secret she was trying to protect to save her career and her father's health is now out in the open.
It's a moment of reckoning for both of them.
Totally. Her secret is exposed, and Hunter is forced to confront the violent, controlling nature of his own instincts, which just confumes his worst fears about himself.
Yeah.
That he's a burden, a danger.
And this intense guilt, combined with the official HGTV show offer arriving, that becomes his justification for self-sabotage.
The show offer is the ultimate threat to his self-imposed prison. He pushes her away, falling back on his trauma-fueled belief that he'll hold her back.
He says, you have this whole big life to live. And that doesn't involve some dingy little lodge in some nowhere town.
He's choosing nobility based on fear. He says he can't watch her leave. Tess sees right through it. She calls it a crock of shit, but she still packs her bags. She honors his choice to self-sacrifice.
But this is a romance, so self-sacrificing nobility has to be defeated by a grand gesture.
Of course. And this is where the support system, Jeannie and Nate, become absolutely critical. Jeannie finally breaks through his guilt, tells him he has to choose between punishing himself and fighting for his happiness.
But the final push comes from Nate.
The magazine friend Tess had arranged to interview Hunter. Nate gives him the modern, pragmatic kick in the pants he needs. He confirms that Tess must really like you too, and that his poker face is shit. Nate's advice is simple. Now go get her.
So Hunter, who avoids change and hates technology, gets on a plane and flies to Newport Beach, California, completely out of his element.
The symbolism is so powerful. He shows up in his flannel and beanie, sticking out like a sore thumb in the California sun. He's confronting the modern, forward-moving world he has feared for a decade.
And he just blurts out his heart.
He does. He admits he knows he's the worst choice for you, but that leaving her killed me more than anything. He confesses that he didn't know what home looked like until he met her.
And Tess, who was actually already planning to go back to him before he even showed up, she accepts.
They reconcile. They agree to figure out a future together, prioritizing their relationship and allowing Hunter to travel, knowing the lodge will be there.
The resolution just validates that central theme, doesn't it? Choice transcends destiny.
It does. Hunter chooses to overcome his trauma and embrace change, including technology and travel. And Tess chooses a partner whose biological pull is matched by his emotional commitment, proving that her career and her mate can coexist.
So before we wrap up with Hunter and Tess, the source material actually gives us this quick peek into another world.
Right from the final score.
Which is really valuable, I think, for contrast.
For sure. It's a sports romance, and it just highlights how the author uses these super high but very different personal stakes to drive the story. It's a contrast between the primal and the purely physical.
So we meet Abby. She's a psychology grad student. She's living with her brother Ian, who's a player for the Druids hockey team.
And she's enduring the presence of Jack Baker, the flirty, self-proclaimed fuckboy teammate.
The dynamic is instant and recognizable, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Abby is the serious, quiet one focused on her studies. She notes Jack is flirty, flighty, and the definition of a fuckboy. And Jack is the quintessential charming menace. He's got this rapid-fire, slightly inappropriate banter.
He even jokes about thinking about her brother naked, instead of her just to avoid making things weird for everyone.
Right. It's a different kind of conflict. It's flirtatious avoidance versus biological mandate, but the tension is equally high.
But the stakes here are so grounded in real-world professional risk, the body breaking down.
And we see that in this dramatic scene. During a game, Jack gets slammed hard into the boards. There's this tense, chaotic pileup.
And the injury is catastrophic.
It is. He's cradling his previously injured arm, his bad arm, and he's groaning in pain. Ian confirms they need an X-ray because it might be broken again.
And that scene just perfectly contrasts the two worlds. In the paranormal world, the body betrays you by forcing a new identity on you.
And in the sports world, the body betrays you by physically failing and threatening your entire career.
It's the same narrative purpose, though. The fear of an unplanned shift. The fear of a career-ending re-break.
They both highlight the fragility of the characters' carefully constructed lives. They force them to confront emotional realities they were trying to avoid. And Jack, even though he's in agony, he insists Ian finish the game, showing his commitment to the team. It just highlights that emotional and physical risk that's so inherent in sports romance.
It's just a sharp reminder that whether the danger is magical or medical, the author consistently uses maximum tension to force growth.
Absolutely. The underlying tension is always about a devastating loss of control.
So let's bring it back to Tess and Hunter and the definitive success of their endeavor, which we get confirmed in the epilogue.
The renovation was a massive, unqualified success. The lodge is fully booked. It's thriving, thanks to the press from Nate's magazine article.
And of course, the internet's obsession with hot hunter of the hills.
Right, which totally validates Tess's professional judgment about getting exposure.
And Hunter, the ultimate Luddite who resisted all technology, he even starts to embrace it a little bit.
He embraces it begrudgingly, which is the perfect character progression. Tess jokes about putting a tasteful nude of him on the website because her followers are thirsting over hot hunter of the hills.
And Hunter, despite hating social media, he now tolerates the attention.
Because it provided nothing but free publicity for the lodge. He accepts the modern tools because they helped save his legacy.
And their relationship, it prevails despite the logistics.
They're still committed. They're maintaining their long-distance traveling arrangement, which validates the idea that their bond transcends the need for constant, forced geographical proximity. They're flexible.
And the final detail is just so heartwarming. Tess's father is healthy enough now to take his own camping vacation.
Which just shows that all of her sacrifices and all of her hard work, it really paid off. It allowed him to finally live his own life freely.
So when you look back at this whole deep dive, this whole journey with Tess and Hunter, what's the core takeaway here?
I mean, for me, it's all about that painful but totally necessary journey toward self-acceptance.
Right. And choice.
And choice. Definitely. Tess has to accept this new identity that just feels like a threat to everything she's built. She had to learn to embrace the primal biological part of herself she couldn't control, but without letting it dictate her entire life.
And Hunter's path, it required him to basically tear down a decade of deep-seated guilt he built around himself.
Yeah, he had to realize that his self-sacrificing nobility was just a defense mechanism. It was a self-imposed prison that was stopping him from prioritizing his own happiness and the love he deserved.
So their bond, which started with this undeniably potent biological catalyst,
The alpha-omega dynamic.
right, it transcended it because they chose each other outside of that instinct. Hunter tries to choose the trauma-driven path of letting her go, feeling he would hold her back.
But his gut instinct, which gets validated by Jeannie and Nate, drives him to fight for the love he deserves.
It really is a compelling masterclass in using maximal tension, isn't it? The source material uses these intense, non-negotiable biological urges, the omega designation, the alpha possessiveness, the need for the not to ultimately show you where true choice and enduring character lie.
Hunter chooses to fight for love by getting on a plane even though he hates flying. Tess chooses to fight for love by accepting the complexity of her biological change and prioritizing her partner.
A tremendous amount of growth came out of that little hiccup in her genes.
They both had to surrender the identity they thought they were meant to uphold. Hunter, the solitary, guilt-ridden protector, and Tess, the solely rational, in-control contractor, to find a lasting love.
And that raises a powerful final question for you, the listener, to mull over. The source material seems to posit that the most intense primal urges can sometimes be the catalyst for the clearest choice. So, when you are confronted by a powerful, seemingly biological destiny, whether that's a career path you feel obligated to take, a deep-seated fear that locks you in place, or the irresistible pull of a new emotional connection, where do you find the line between accepting what is written and choosing what you choose to fight for?
Food for thought. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.